Good morning, friends. It is August 21st, 2020, and I decided it was time for another garden update. I don't think you've seen this one at all this year. So basically what we have is the remainder of a compost pile. We had a huge dump truck delivered, and this is what remains. And so at the end of planting season, I said, I have all these extra tomatoes. I'm just going to put them in the compost and see what they do. And so I used some posts to put up some I don't even know what kind of fencing this is. We just found it in the garage. And I have done nothing to these tomatoes. I've tied them up. Let's just put it that way. I have tied some of them up, and I have trimmed some of them if they had stems that were weak or whatever, but literally nothing else. You can see there is signs of disease here. I'm not worried about it. These are low maintenance tomatoes, and they got put in the ground later than the others, and that is why they are just starting to come on, which in retrospect was kind of genius, because the ones in the garden you will see are nearing the end of their life, and these are just coming on. And so I've got mostly heirlooms here. You can see I've got some little ones, and I don't know what kind they are because when I planted them, they got all, and you can't see it, there's a question mark on that tag. There were some that I didn't know what they were because their initial tags got lost. So as you can see, they're coming along. And then over here, this is a Cherokee Purple, and I've gotten some off of here, and like the size of these tomatoes are really fantastic. So I'm thrilled with that. And then in there, you can see I've got two pepper plants that are doing really well. They weren't doing well when I planted them. They also got planted late because they were stunted from aphids. But as you can see, they have recovered. So this is an experiment that was a success. Very low maintenance. And I'm going to be getting lots of tomatoes from here. All right, so we'll take you over now to the herb garden. I hope I don't make anyone sick, but it is what it is here. The mullein, you can see, is toppling over. That did not take Hurricane Isaias very well. This was supposed to be holy basil. It is not. I don't know what kind of basil it is, but it's doing very well. The calendula will be more pretty in about an hour when all the petals open, but you can see it all around. In the middle there's horehound, and then there's lemongrass, which has just gotten huge. I've got my containers of peppermint and lemon verbena and lavender, and I was going to put that in the ground, but I think I might take it in for the winter, so that might have to go in a pot. You can see here what is this? Anise hyssop. It is anise hyssop. It is taken over. So the plan here is to transplant some of these into pots and then get them going, assuming that the garden club will be having its plant sale in the spring. But as you can see, the pollinators love it. It's a fantastic plant to grow. It has taken over. There is another horehound in there. There's oregano back there. There's oregano here. This plant right here that looks terrible is borage. And it's one plant. I bought it in a 4-inch pot from a local farm at the beginning of the season. It has already started to reseed. So basically what I have discovered about borage is it's great for the pollinators, but it's not, as you can see, it's not a pretty plant. So I have taken some of these babies and transplanted them down in the garden near the mulberry trees and comfrey. So I will show you that, and hopefully that'll be a better spot for the borage. These beautiful blue flowers are forget-me-nots that I grew from seed. They were supposed to go in a school garden project that my daughter was working on, but then there was no school. So that was the end of that. These are more calendula. I forget what kind they are, but they have a very black-eyed Susan look to them. And so I'm really enjoying them, and I'm wanting to save their seed, which is why they're looking a little crummy right now, because I am letting them develop. You can see here, these are the seeds. They've got a very prehistoric look to them. But I will save these and plant them next spring, and I will have more calendula. This is a spicy globe basil. This right here, this gorgeous pepper plant, was also not doing well, and it got planted really late, but it has just blossomed. Well, it hasn't blossomed. It has increased in size with the hot weather that we've had, and I noticed the other day there were a couple blossoms on it. This is a boonie pepper, which I got from our time in Guam. Nobody here grows them. I've never seen seeds for boonie peppers, so I brought them back from Guam, and I'm hoping that there's time left in the season for it to blossom. The peppers are really, really tiny, but they are hot. And so my plan for this is to take it inside for the winter so that next spring it'll have a head start and we'll get some good pepper development on there. All right, let's take you over to the horseshoe garden, which has seen better days. The beetles and the earwigs totally decimated the pepper plants in here. Black Seaman tomato is producing. These are smaller tomatoes than the ones in the garden, but this was an afterthought garden, so any food in here is bonus. The Mexican bean beetles got to my Kentucky pole beans, but they are finally flowering, so I don't know. We'll see what happens with these. This is what they look like right here. Can you see them? Look at, they're everywhere. Ew. So I will have to come in and really attack these buggers. Look at them. Anyway, so these are what the peppers are looking like. You can see they were completely decimated. The basil was decimated too. It is coming back, and I'm trimming it back so it won't go to seed, because I'm hoping for some basil harvest. This pepper might bounce back. It's got some buds here and some new growth, so I'm hoping that these peppers, same thing here, we've got some new growth coming, and we'll see. So yeah, overall, not really a fantastic success here, but again, lots of lessons learned. I've got some black-seeded Simpson in here, hoping to get started, because I'm missing the fresh garden lettuce. But it is what it is. Next year, I'm hoping that this horseshoe garden, or horseshoe pit, will also be turned into a garden for herbs. That one gets a little more shade, but I think it would be good for herbs. So let's take you down to the garden, and you will see that the summer garden is waning, and it is time to get ready for the fall garden. I much prefer fall gardening. The weather is nicer, there are fewer bugs. So we'll start over here. I had showed you at one point my Cinderella pumpkin. I went to turn it over the other day and it totally fell off in my hands. So that is at home. I've still got my, what is this? Words are hard this morning. My Blue Hubbard is right here. I've got some tiny cachas here, but I've got larger cachas at the home garden, so we'll have plenty. The lilies all ended up blooming despite the fact that they were transplanted this spring. So again, some of them will be dug up and given to the garden club plant sale. Ooh, you guys, look. One of the iris is blooming. I don't know where these iris came from. Some of them came from this property and we transplanted them. They were growing where the herb garden is. And some of them were from our home property and I brought them up here. I do not know which ones these are. So very interesting. It's a yellow iris. Good to know. All right, this row here used to be potatoes. We harvested them. I've got peas here and cilantro and kale and all kinds of good cool season crops. So I will come back later today and water these again. Same thing here. This was garlic, I believe, and I put in more yellow squash because mine was terrible. Transplanted some lettuce that has seen better days, but it looks like it's going to take, so that's good. So all kinds of cool season crops here, including cabbages. I was not going to grow cabbages, but I had the spot, so I decided to go for it. In this row here, look at this sunflower. It totally got right there. It's growing along the ground because the hurricane blew it over, but it's still growing. So the kale I had to spray the other day with BT because I found I was happy that it seems to be holding on and it made it through the summer. And I wanted to make sure it was going to provide us with good stuff during the cool season. And as you can see, there were worms all over it. So I sprayed it with BT. And then it rained, of course. So I will have to spray it again. I wanted to show you over here. This is going to be next year's raspberry bed. But I decided that there was no sense in letting it go fallow. So I planted green beans along here, and as you can see, they're coming up. The rabbits are getting to them, so I may have to put some row cover over it just to protect them. But hopefully we will have more green beans before too much longer. All right, this is the first tomato row, and I've already pulled some of them out because they were determinate varieties and they were done. And as you can see, most of the indeterminates are done as well in this row. We had 2 weeks of 90 degrees and they did not like it. So yeah, this row of tomatoes has seen better days. More kale here. What did I plant here? Oh, carrots. So I planted carrots here the other day. I'll come in and water those. But as you can see, these were supposed to be black crims. They were not. Something happened with the seed packets last year. I decided to try it again to make sure it wasn't just me. And yeah, these tomatoes are not actually black crims. These are better boys. This one is doing better than that one. So you can see They are showing signs of blight, but these actually look better than some of the tomatoes that I have. This, I labeled an Abraham Lincoln. It is not. I think it's a Cherokee Purple. So again, something happened either at my setup or with the seed packets themselves. I will try it again next year just to make sure it wasn't me. Okay, this row here, I tore out a lot of the zucchini that were done, and I planted more from seed. I planted more cukes back there as well. So this was my favorite row in the spring because it looked so lush, and now it doesn't, but that's okay. All right, this row of tomatoes, again, I didn't prune these at all. They're definitely showing signs of disease, but they are still producing. And so we will have tomatoes here for a while. You can see all kinds of signs of red here. More tomatoes here. Again, showing signs of disease. It's just a matter of getting them to ripen, the ones that are on there. Look at this Dr. White Cheese. I have been so impressed with the size of the tomatoes on this plant. And it's still looking pretty healthy, so that's great. This is my healthiest zucchini plant right now. It's the only one I have that's still producing, so that's why it got to stay. And then I wanted to show you all of these. These are all volunteer tomatoes from last year. And I've actually been picking yellow pears. You can see I did nothing. I didn't cage them. They just grew. I did transplant these into the rows because they had been in the aisleways. But ironically enough, I decided I was not going to grow yellow pear tomatoes this year because every single one of them cracked last year. And I'm not exaggerating. I don't remember getting one yellow pear tomato that did not crack. And so of course it volunteered here in the garden, and this year I haven't had one that cracked. So as you can see, there's more on there. We'll be getting more of them. This right here is Mexican sunflower, or Tithonia, and the pollinators love it, so that's why it's there. More tomatoes. These, look at these. I mean, they look terrible. The plants themselves are like, you know, I'm not doing anything to get rid of the diseases at this point because it's just a matter of waiting for these to ripen. But this is Martinez Roma, and I have been very, very impressed with the amount of tomatoes that I've taken off those plants. They're small though, so I would rather grow an Opelka or an Amish paste because they're larger tomatoes. I put more cucumbers in on this trellis. More tomatoes. The beans here aren't doing well at all. I harvested some. I'm leaving them on the pods to ripen so that I can get seeds, and then that'll be the end of that. More tomatoes over here. The Amish paste is doing pretty well. I need to tie that one up. They are getting smaller as the season goes on. They were pretty large earlier in the summer. The peppers, again, they got, you can't see because of my shadow. The peppers got decimated. I'm pretty sure it was earwigs, and so I have a plan for next year. But you can see they're flowering again, and they're bouncing back. So I'm excited about that. I have some down here that haven't even flowered yet. Again, these are hot peppers, so I'm hoping that we have time for them to flower and produce some peppers. This is another Tithonia. It's just starting to blossom. The eggplants are coming, but again, they're small. I harvested one, and that's about it so far, but there is more on here. These are the peperoncinis, and this one is peperoncini. They are producing, they're still flowering, so I'm hoping to get more of those this year. The bell peppers that I'm growing are just par for the course. They don't do well. I don't know why I bother. Next year I probably will not. So we've got another row of tomatoes here that, as you can see, they're not looking very happy. They're on their way out. I want to show you these babies though. Look at how beautiful. These are dragon tongue, no, purple potted bush beans. The dragon tongues are in the other side of the row. So hopefully we'll get some purple beans here. And then over here, this is where I have some comfrey in the mulberry bushes, and this is where I transplanted the borage. So it doesn't look like it wants to take, but we'll see. Yeah, this one shriveled up to nothing. So I've not had good luck transplanting the borage. So that's it in a nutshell. As you can see, we are not looking our finest, but that's okay. 'Tis the season, right? I can't say that I'm sad to see the tomatoes go. I invested a lot of time with them until it was harvest time, and then once it's harvest time, I kind of let the plants go and concentrate on bringing in the tomatoes. And I've been making sauce, and I've been freezing some of the plum tomatoes for later so that I can make salsa once things aren't so busy and hot in the kitchen. I am looking forward to the fall garden with all the cool weather crops, so I will keep you posted on what they do. I'm interested to see with the zooks and the yellow squash that I just planted. They are early maturing. They're 50 days or less, so we should not have any problems here as far as getting them in before a first frost. They are forecasting a warm fall for us, so I'm hoping that will work in my favor. So there you have it, the garden and all of its not so glory. I will leave you with this beautiful zinnia. I'm trying to keep them cut so that they will produce more all the way up to frost. All right, I wish you happy gardening, and until next time, get your hands dirty.